All right, today we're diving into something really different, a pretty unconventional take on the Diamond Sutra. It comes from a text that claims to unlock a kind of lost version of Buddhist philosophy. So yeah, let's just jump right in. So right off the bat, I want to ask you something that really gets to the heart of what this is all about. Take a look at this. Is the Buddha you've always heard about the real deal? Our source for this whole thing basically starts by turning everything you thought you knew on its head. And here is the first bombshell. The text just drops this line. Shakyamuni is not the founder of Buddhism, just as Jesus is not God. Whoa! I mean, that is a massive claim, right? It's designed to pull apart the historical person, Siddhartha Gautama, from the actual, ultimate idea of enlightenment. So if he isn't the origin, what is? That one statement just forces us to completely rethink the whole concept of the Buddha. So this first part is all about tearing down that conventional idea so we can build a new one based on the definitions from our source text.
This slide redefines the whole term. According to our source, a Buddha isn't a person. It's a spirit living in what's called the Pure Land, and its ultimate ancestor, which is described as the Supreme Universal God, is called the Tathagata. So yeah, a human can become a Buddha, but the Buddha itself is a spiritual state, and it comes from something way, way bigger.
And this line just perfectly captures the text's view on organized religion. You see that word cassock? That's the robe a monk wears. It's a symbol for the moment Buddhism became formal, structured. And the author argues that as soon as those rituals and structures showed up, the original true teaching, the Dharma, was totally lost.
Okay. So if the true Dharma just vanished with the rise of organized religion, then what exactly was it in the first place? This next part is all about figuring out what our source actually means by the true Dharma.
And here you have it. The true Dharma is the same thing as the Tao, that ultimate, impossible-to-describe principle of the entire universe. It's this really fascinating mix of Buddhist and Taoist philosophy. It's not something you can find in a ceremony or a book or some physical thing. You have to go after it spiritually.
And this brings us to the central paradox, the big brain twister of the Diamond Sutra that our source keeps coming back to. The so-called Dharma is not Dharma. I mean, what does that even mean? It's a sentence that's meant to break your brain. The second you put a label on something and call it the teaching, you've already boxed it in and missed the whole point. The real teaching is beyond any name or form you can give it.
So this kind of paradoxical thinking is really the key to unlocking the next concept. And honestly, it's probably the toughest one. The idea that the world we experience every day is, at its core, an illusion.
This is the foundation for everything. All that has form is illusory. Everything we see, hear, touch, even our own thoughts, our bodies, this world, it's all just a temporary, flickering illusion. The text argues that if you can learn to see past the form to the formless reality that's underneath it all, that's when you perceive the ultimate truth, the Tathagata.
This slide really helps break it down. So, on one side, you have the form. That's the world of appearances, all the stuff we give names to. And on the other side, you have the true nature, the formless, deep-down reality, the Tao. The entire goal is to stop getting fooled by the form and to start seeing the true nature in absolutely everything. So how does this actually work? The text uses this is-not formula on everything. A world is just a label we've created, so the world is not the world. A bodhisattva, an enlightened being, who is attached to the idea of I am a bodhisattva, well, because of that very attachment, they are not a true bodhisattva. It's this radical takedown of all the labels we rely on. Okay, so I know what you're thinking. If everything's an illusion and all our concepts are empty, how are we supposed to do anything? And this is where we move from the philosophy to the actual practice. The answer is to cultivate what the sutra calls the non-abiding mind. This right here is the key instruction. One should develop a pure mind that does not abide in anything. Now, to abide just means to cling to something, to get attached, to get stuck on it. The whole goal is to let thoughts and feelings and sensations just come and go without getting hooked by any of them. So how do you actually do this? The text is super clear. You train your mind not to get stuck on any sensory input, what you see, hear, smell, taste, or touch. But just as important, you don't even get stuck on the concepts or the teachings themselves. You just let it all flow through you without grabbing onto anything. So as we start to bring this all together, the source text shows us this really cool evolution of thought, and it all leads to its own unique vision of this unspeakable truth. It lays it all out for us in a series of 3 poems. First, you've got the path of effort. This is the idea that enlightenment is something you have to work for, constantly. You have to be diligent, always wiping the mirror of your mind to keep it pure and free from the dust of the world. But then there's this profound leap in understanding. This is the path of insight. It realizes that the mind, the self, even the dust, it's all just empty concepts. They're illusions. If there's nothing there to begin with, what is there to clean? And finally, our source text offers its own version, what it calls the path beyond. And here, the mind and spirit aren't empty. They are the very source of reality itself, the mirror stand. They are actively creating the world of illusions, but your true enlightened nature is always untouched, totally beyond that dust. And this brings us to the famous final lines of the Diamond Sutra, which is just a beautiful and powerful summary of this entire worldview. Everything we experience in this world is as temporary and unreal as a dream, a bubble, a flash of lightning. It's the final reminder to see through the whole show. So, we end up right back where we started, with a question. The text argues that the more you try to explain the Tao, the further away from it you get, which leaves us with this one last thing to chew on. If the highest truth can't be put into words or ideas, how can anyone ever find it?